Many rosaries said here.
Yes. Yeah, every night. Mother's pride and joy was that the rest of her Delph. When the girls were at home from school on Saturday, it was their job then to wash the Delph for mother. The medicine cabinet over the bed. Castor oil, syrup of figs, salt, senia pods and sulphur. February, March, you got a dose of salts and castor oil so that your system was free of all toxins for spring. March and April, you got nettles and cabbage, remembering that the water came from the spring well. So much of the minerals that your body required was contained in the natural spring water. Any shortfall in iron to your system was substituted to it by getting a couple of dinners of nettles and cabbage boiled in early spring. Towards the end of April, early May and again in October, we got sulphur and treacle, sulphur and molasses, so that we didn't suffer from styes, pimples or boils. If we got sick, then we were looked after in the kitchen bed. We were focus of attention in there. Mother or father would trade places with us. And often when people come here, they think that the people that lived here must have been small or dwarfed. Jumping to that conclusion when they come to the front door, not understanding the tax system and operation when the house was built, confused them when they come in and look in on the outshot, the hag of the collier, which is this impression referred to the bed in the kitchen in Mayo. The reason why the bed was short was unfortunately many of us were devastated with TB and we didn't sleep like we sleep today. In those times people were advised to sleep sitting up so that the liquid stayed at the bottom of the stomach and wasn't going into the lungs, causing further complications. Which was the meaning of the large pillow, which was referred to as the bolster, supporting your back when in that upright position. Here then you have the cradle for the baby, with the Christian symbols on the four corners of it. Home from school to mind the child, mother was gone to town, to the fair or to the market, so you're here to mind the child. But for some reason or another you had to leave the house, maybe to get turf for the fire or a bucket of water in the well. Before you left, you placed the tongs across the cradle to ward off evil spirits. For great supernatural powers were thrust into the power of the tongs, mother always knowing the movement of her children, more so maybe than dad's. Knowing when we were going on a long journey, it was customary for my mother to throw the tongs after us as we left the house, not to hit us, but hopefully nothing will happen to us while we're gone from the house and that we will safely return. It also holds medicinal powers. We all, from time to time, suffer from one of the most aggravating sicknesses, which is upset stomachs, cramps and diarrhoea. The answer in the tongs. My mother would boil milk in this little pot. At the same time she reddened the tongs in the fire. And then with the red hot tongs she mixed that milk and she gave it to us to drink. And yes, I guarantee you a cure to your ailment. Why? Because when you're suffering that ailment, your body is craving of iron and sulphur. The liquid will have extracted the iron and the sulphur from the tongs when at that high temperature. So you're getting the raw materials straight into your system. Today, many will refer to that as being dirt. There is no dirt there. For at 100 degrees all impurities are burned out. But what is on the outside of the tongs is something that your body requires to kill off that bacteria, which is carbon or charcoal. And that is why, should you be taken to the hospital with poisoning, what do they do to you? They feed carbon or charcoal into your system. And so don't let the tablets disguise you just because they're coated with ice and sugar. It's basically carbon that's underneath. And that woman that was on the last tour, she said that she couldn't believe it. I don't know, is she Polish or what nationality she is? I think she's Polish or Lithuanian, I'm not sure, one of the two. But she said that she always has charcoal in the house for her kids to give it. It's automatic killing, right? And why was there so much significance placed in the power of the tongs? As Christians, we are led to believe that our Lord was crucified on Good Friday. He was crucified with nails, the blacksmith making them. He had metal to make 2 nails. Where did he get the metal for the 3rd nail? Reputedly cut the leg of the tongs. That is why when you get a tongs that has been made by a blacksmith, one leg will be slightly shorter than the other. How do you recognise a blacksmith's tongs? It is a small round head. It is a long neck. It is one eye. It is 2 crooked shoulders, a long leg and a short leg, and was known in this area as a drunken man. Up in the room is my grandmother's bed, and my grandmother used that bed till she died in 64. When she died in 64, my dad then used it till he died in 92. When we left this house in 1970, my dad took the bed with him to the house next door. And in 1980, my own daughter Geraldine was born in that bed in the house next door. So 4 generations of us alone have used that particular bed. And can I just add to that, that no child has been born in a house in this parish, and this is the 2nd largest rural parish in Ireland. No child has been born in a house in this parish since. That's nearly 33 years ago. That's how the roof was put on the house. The scroffs in the bog are placed under the ribs. The pointed sticks and the scallops coming through which are on the thatch. A ceiling light that's over us went in towards the end of the 50s, early 60s, when a few dollars or a few pounds came back from immigrants. Well, up in the room with his canvas bags, those bags here opened up and sewn together, nailed up to the rafters and whitewashed. We always referred to down in the room and up in the room. When the animals were put from this section of the house, that's when that wall there was built. And often it may not be a stone wall at all that was there, but a timber partition, or maybe just those Hessian bags nailed up and whitewashed. The step still survives going down, for the animals were at a lower level to the people. It's gone up in the room. I've taken that out so that it was accessible for wheelchairs. Also, my father had put in a concrete floor here in the kitchen to make life easier for my mother. And I wished to place the flags back, for they were still stacked at the rear of the house taken out in the 50s. But didn't place them without first asking an old man out the road here, was there any pattern to be followed? And he said to me, be sure and put a big flag in front of the fire, known as a hearthstone. And on a cigarette box he drew a plan. Under the top left-hand corner of the flag in front of the fire, he said, put a flint stone. That was to represent that anybody who'd ever stand by the fire would always have light, meaning sight. Under the top right-hand corner, he said, put a couple of pieces of sticks that would always have heat. Under the bottom left-hand corner, a coin that would always have wealth, meaning health. And the bottom right-hand corner, a couple of grains of corn that would always have food. While in the centre, looking into the fire, he said, put a horseshoe that when they walked away from here, they'd always be lucky. And that's what I can wish the 5 of you. I can tell you I've done those 5 things. I didn't do what I was told to do by another man under the flag in the centre of the floor. Under the flag in the centre of the floor, I was told to put a horse's head. When I asked the meaning, when people would tap dance, the skull will give off an echo. Well, then 3 years later, a priest at Ballintubber told the story that during Celtic times, when people were giving thanks to the gods for the fruits produced by the earth, they sacrificed a cat. When the cat was being slaughtered, the squeals of the cat frightened the horse. The horse then had to be put down and was buried under the first residence built in the area. Then about 15, 16 years ago, a family visited here. With that family was a lady in her 70s who sat here by the door. To quote her words, she said, I'm as blind as a bat. She listened to the story. She was taken outside and I spoke to her outside and she said, I'm delighted I came, thrilled to hear you tell those stories, for I heard them, she said, by my father. He too was blind. He lost his sight when he was 20, but left many of those stories behind, and I'll send you his book. And she did. Carrick in My Time by Paddy Harper, A Blind Man. And when I opened page 55, there was a rubbing of the flag floor from his mother's home in Tyrone in Northern Ireland, dated 1882, with the carving of a horse. Which motivated me then to have a look to see was there any evidence of those horses' heads ever uncovered, and discovered that at the Histertian Abbey at Moon in County Kildare, about 20 odd years ago, when restoring one of the buildings attached to the abbey there, when they removed the flag floor, discovered 4 skulls of horses underneath. Also at Larne in County Antrim, Drummond in County Leitrim, County Cavan, County Monaghan, County Wexford, County Clare, County Fermanagh, skulls of horses uncovered and recorded. And about 12 years ago, a family restoring a house just down the road from us here at Ross at Pontoon, and having heard me talk of objects that were placed underneath the floor, kept an eye out to see was there any features under theirs. Yes, when they lifted the flag in the centre of the floor, there was a horse's head. And to show that we are not freaks or crazy individuals putting objects like this under the floors of buildings, a few years ago we had a tour here from Gloucestershire. When I told that group those stories, this English family tells us that in 1977, when restoring their own home in Gloucestershire, when they removed the flag floor, they discovered 2 small stone tombs either side of the fireplace. A historical society arranged an excavation of the floor area for them, told them they were the tombs of cats. And then about 10 years ago we had a tour here from Hastings, the Battle of Hastings, southeast of England. In that group was a couple who were after getting a pub in Hastings, the Stags. 6 years ago renovating it, discovered in the walls and floors of it mummified cats and rats. And they are not an unusual discovery to make, for we believe that mummified cats and rats were often placed in the walls and floors of buildings to ward off evil. And if you're in Dublin, any time and have an hour to spend, visit Christ Church Cathedral, for there during recent renovations the discovery of mummified cats. And 3 years ago there was a television programme in the United States by Professor Paul Muldoon, lecturer on heritage and culture at University of New Jersey. For many years he was a lecturer in Notre Dame in Illinois. But during that programme 3 years ago, he read a poem, Dancing at Moy, the last lines of it. As you'll dance on the flag floors, the skulls of the horses reverberate like the sound of the trampoline. Dancing at Moy.
Well,
I was born on that bed. That is the doctor who was involved, Dr. Cawley from Swinford. Gwynna's life as a doctor in this region delivered over 2,000 babies, never losing a mother or a child. And I think that that's a fair mouthful to say right in the world lunch those people operated. For I think it would be fair to add that at least 70% of those kids were born in clinical conditions, just like you see here. Do you get on? Oh, do you want to get in the house?